Welcome to the Love That For You podcast, where every week you're invited to dream big, laugh often, and celebrate the extraordinary stories of those who inspire. Your story matters, and I love that for you. Hey friends, before we jump into our conversation, I just wanted to remind you, if you don't know already, I actually host another podcast called Queen City Connect. This is a podcast that celebrates the dreamers, the doers, and the change makers of Charlotte, North Carolina. If that sounds like something that would interest you, I would love for you to go check it out on any podcast platform, even the one you're listening to right now. We would absolutely love that. Give it a like, give it a subscribe, rate and review, and I think you're really going to enjoy it. We also have an Instagram page that you can follow along to see who all of the incredible small business owners and nonprofits and creatives that make up Charlotte, North Carolina are at. So if that sounds like something you would enjoy, we would love for you to listen in. Thanks, everyone. Before we jump into today's episode, I am so excited to share with you our sponsor. According to the National Institute of Health, over 23 million miscarriages occur worldwide every year. In the United States, 1 in 4 women has experienced pregnancy loss. Delivering an angel baby, one born without a heartbeat, is a traumatic and life-altering experience, one that comes with increased risk of anxiety, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, and even suicide. Nicole Chrysler is the mother of an angel baby. Her son, Evan James, was born November 8th, 2023, after having died at 13 weeks gestation. One thing that helped ease her grief was the handmade hat, blanket, and wrap that the hospital gave her for her son. They were a beautiful keepsake and a reminder that her son and his life mattered. When Evan was born, though, he only weighed 22 grams, less than an ounce, and was 4 inches long. Because he was so small, his hat was too big, and while Nicole didn't mind that at all, it did give her an idea to make and crochet and donate items in several sizes so that each baby would have something in the perfect size. This idea has grown to what is now called Evan's Box. Currently, hospitals in more than 14 states have an Evan's Box. Our goal is to have an Evan's Box in at least one hospital in each state. We would love to invite you to become a part of this important mission. To find out more to see how you can help, please visit evansbox.org. Well, Meagan Ingersoll, welcome to the studio. Welcome to Love That For You.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
I know. Meagan lives in Greenville, South Carolina area, and she's one of my besties. And I've wanted to have you on the podcast for a while. And it was one of those things where it was like, we could probably virtually record. Or that'd be great if you could just come up sometime. And I maybe asked her this 3 months ago. Yeah. Spoiler alert, we are recording this end of 2023. Yeah. This episode is coming out sometime through February. My guess is like third weekish, but we're recording this at the end of 2023. So fair warning with just timing of what we're talking about and what we will be talking about, just so you all understand if things in life have changed, you know, our timing of recording. But anyway, I'm really glad that it worked out for you to be able to come in person so that we can like just hang out as friends and then get to sit in the studio and record.
It's so fun. Thank you for having me. It's a blast. And also I'm really enjoying this coffee and our
Yes, we are sipping our coffee mugs. In our Love That For You mugs. Sometimes I'll fill it with water. Yeah. I think that's what they do on The Tonight Show.
Well, probably because they can't keep it warm.
Oh, 100%. And that way they have something, but it still is branded. Anyway, Meagan, you do a lot. I feel like you're involved with a lot. You're passionate about a lot of different things. I'd love to hear your story. Obviously, I know a ton about you just because we're very good friends, but the world doesn't.
Maybe that's good. No,
no, and they need to know because you are like a very eclectic person who has just done a lot. You've had a lot of opportunities doing lots of different things. So I'd love for you to kind of high level just share, like, what was your childhood like? What have you been involved with? Is your degree what you're doing now? Just kind of share high level. And then we'll kind of dive in. I've kind of teased a little bit on social media of like, you are very involved with politics. And I know it's like such a taboo subject, especially this month, especially this year, but something that I feel like we shouldn't shy away from, and we should be having like informed conversations with people who know what's going on, not to form a bias or to push a bias, but just to be educated. And I feel like your friendship with me is very educational of just like, here are the facts, here's what's happening. And I'll just come to you and we'll get into it more. I'll just be like, what's happening? And you are just a very factually based person that has been
That's the goal.
very helpful. So anyway, we'll get there though in a few minutes. Share your story. Who is Meagan?
Oh my word. Okay. Well, a precocious, outgoing little child for sure. The story starts with, I always say the theme that ties everything together that I've done, because it is true. Like eclectic's a good word. A lot of variety. I've done a lot of different things, but the theme that ties them all together, I would say, is storytelling. Whether I am a part of telling the story or I'm creating the story, all of that kind of ties together. I was on the stage doing shows when I was 4, 5 years old. We have some hilarious photos and videos. So very outgoing and happy to be in front of people from day one. And that kind of followed me through high school and into college. I had some opportunities worked on some independent films because I thought I wanted to do film. Learned a lot though about filmmaking, about radio, developed a lot of skill there, and then went to college for theater, got a degree in theater, but learned I love project managing because of directing. And so that led me into project managing for marketing. And now I'm a marketing director. So like a full swing into a business side of using those skills of storytelling and connecting with people and getting the right message to the right audience. But I now do it in a professional capacity. Politics is not my job. So I don't do anything politically right now that I am, it's not my job. It's not my work. So, but I do a lot politically volunteer. Which maybe, one day I'll get into that more as a full gig. But for now, I love having the balance of a 9 to 5 that I love and I am able to fully immerse myself in. But then on the side, be an informed citizen, an involved community member. I work with a lot of nonprofits. I do a lot of cause-based issues. I'm very involved in the GOP, so I am Republican, but very passionate about wherever you land, being connected with your community on those issues. And so I've helped a lot of candidates on campaigns. I just dabble in all the things politics. So that's kind of where I'm at now.
Okay, so getting to where you are now and going back and talking through like the degrees you got and the classes you took and how none of them explicitly is exactly what you're doing right now.
Right.
Talk to the person who doesn't know what to do with their life. So maybe there's like a 20-year-old listening, or maybe there's a mom with an 18-year-old or someone who raising someone who's like trying to figure out what they want to do with their life. Speak to that of the person who's like has interest, doesn't know exactly what that looks like. That was myself. So how has your story of your career, but even before that, of your degrees, your classes, everything, what would you tell that person? Was it worth doing what you're doing, even though that's not exactly what you're doing now? How did that work for you?
Yeah, I love talking about this actually, because I speak to college students whenever I get the chance, because I am really passionate about helping people get in the right place. So basically I'm passionate about whatever it is I'm doing at the moment. So I love talking about this.
Love that for you.
Yeah. Love talking about it. The biggest things that I always say when I'm making decisions about what I'm doing is, number one, do I have skill? Like, do I have a desire to do it? Do I have ability to do it? And do I have opportunity? If I have all three of those things, like the skill has been not just something I see, but others have said, yes, you can do that. I enjoy it. So you don't want to hate it just because I can do it, but I don't like doing it. Doesn't sound like a great thing. So you have to have some passion there. You're not going to love it every day, but you need to love it enough to want to do it. And then opportunity. You could be great at and enjoy doing, but have no capacity, no opportunity to do it. So all three pieces have been a big part of when I'm praying about something, getting counsel, trying to decide what is the next right thing, or even when I was in school, what should I do now? I got an undergrad in theater and a master's in communication, making that jump even, using those same measuring tools of opportunity, skill, and desire. So that would be the first place I'd encourage someone when you're looking at a degree. Maybe you're in a major and you're looking at, should you change your major? Or you're trying to decide what school to go to, where to live, switching jobs. Always those three things are the way I make a decision, at least the starting point. And then additionally, I would say, where do you want to be? And take steps backwards. So I talk to a lot of students, 18, 20-year-olds, who they're like, I want to be in management in a business. Great. That sounds awesome. So you can't just apply for that job.
Right.
Like that's not, that's not how it works. So how can we get you there? Finding mentors who are in that position and asking them, what did you do to get there? What was your first job? What skills did you need to have that you didn't get maybe in a degree, even if it was the degree for that field, and go get that skill. Build the resume towards what you're wanting and be really intentional about that. For me, I've ended up where I'm at, and by the grace of God, through him letting me take advantage of the experiences. And if I hadn't really dived in and tried things, some things I didn't like, some things I loved and would never have known I was good at if I didn't try and work hard. That'd be the last piece, is work harder than anybody else. Because even if you don't end up doing it forever, but you develop, when we were talking about, it's not about, you say, how do you say it?
It's not about who you know, it's who knows you.
Okay, yes. So
It's my favorite phrase.
You want to build a reputation of being dependable and indispensable. Even if it's not the field you want to be in, that person's going to recommend you for something else.
They'll remember you.
They'll remember you.
And they'll say, hey, this job description is different, but I saw her in this role and she crushed it. So she's teachable.
Yeah.
And it's like so many people in so many jobs these days is like, we can teach the skill. We need someone who's teachable, someone who's dependent, someone who has integrity. Right. We'll teach them what to do when they come in for training.
Literally what I tell, I've hired recently 2 college graduates on my marketing team. And that is what I tell college students is, I cannot teach you how to be a quality person. You have to come to me as that. And if you're not that, you're not going to get the job. So that's first.
We say the same thing about dating.
And I was going to say, and we wish we could say the same thing about our politicians, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well.
What else do you want to say about that?
Oh,
Takes a sip of coffee. That's so good, though. Hopefully so encouraging for people of like, character is first. Character is key. Like, who are you? Building integrity, character, dependability, like all of those qualities that can't necessarily be taught. You can work on it, of course, but that is something that is innate in you, that you're deciding that you are going to be that, you know? So that's really good. It's cool to see. I feel like we're similar in the ways that we both have had a lot of different experiences, and pieces of those have led us to where we are today. And I mean, who's to say what you're going to do 20 years from now?
I sure don't know.
Yeah. It could be anything. She's going to be in the White House.
No.
But like an experience that you had in college, or even something that you're doing now, is preparing you for that. So life is all just built on storied experience, and you've just got to keep going and keep saying yes to the next right thing. So I feel like you're crushing it. You're totally doing that.
Thank you.
I love it. That. So what does like Tuesday at 10:30 a.m. look like for you? Like, what is the job?
What's so funny is I keep bringing it back to politics. I was going to laugh and say, well, which Tuesday? Is it election Tuesday? My boyfriend jokes and says, is it a holiday? Because kind of. But it's a big deal to me. On a regular day at work, at 10:30, I'm probably at the office and on my second cup of coffee. And I'm probably knee deep in reports or looking at email statistics, crafting content. Actually, around then is when I usually look at the calendar for the week and make sure my team has all their projects lined up. I'm looking at what are our vendors. I've already gone through my inbox. I'm saying, okay, what do our vendors need? Crafting project plans. Maybe I'm drafting emails, all the things.
It is incredible how God makes everyone so different, because your Tuesday at 10:30 is not what my Tuesday at 10:30 looks like. So also love that for you. Okay, so and so many of those experiences that we've already talked about have led to like that job description that you're doing now, and how you're like managing people and all of that. How like your job that you do for work, do you feel like that has an impulse and influence on who you are as a person? Like,
oh, yeah.
Does that make sense?
Like, how is my job connected to my identity?
Yes.
I think I don't usually think of, this is an interesting thought. I actually have been talking a lot recently about the concept of value. And obviously we all find meaning and experience value in moments of appreciation, all that from work we do. I believe God created us to be workers pre the fall. We are designed to be creative. We emulate the image of God by being creative people and by working. Like, I experience identity in my work, and I see my value in my work. But I would say something I've really been encouraging peers is to not view their value through the lens of what they're capable of doing.
That's good.
And the reason is because at any point that can change.
Yeah.
I mean, COVID, so many people lost their jobs. Their jobs were non-essential. I mean, and obviously they were essential, but
What a
they were,
slam.
it's not that they weren't essential, but
Right.
we understand the situation in a lot of ways. But the reality is if you saw your worth as a person on your 9 to 5 and all of a sudden that's gone, what happened? I think a lot of people experienced severe depression because identity was placed on things that were taken away.
That's good.
And so I've really been, and I encourage my team with this, even because we do a lot of creative work and you're creative. And I could see where this would be really easy for you as well to feel the value and like satisfaction and completion, which is good. And I think a God thing that we experience when God looked at his creation and said it was good. Yeah. I think we emulate the character of God when we look at work we do and say, that's good.
Yeah, 100%.
But I can't look at what I did and say, I am good. I have value now. When I do that, all of a sudden I've tied a thread to my thing. And if someone else looks at the thing and says, that's an ugly baby,
yeah,
you're crushed.
Right.
Because you put your worth on the thing you did.
Yeah.
And so no matter what it is we do.
I was going to say that's for anything in life.
I find a lot of joy in what I do. But I think it's why I've been able to change. I've been able to move from thing to thing to thing because the joy wasn't in what I was doing.
Right.
As much as in the ability to get to do it.
Right. That's the perfect answer. That I didn't know that that's what you're going to say, but I'm so glad you did because that's exactly what I was getting to is we are going to have so many opportunities to do so many different things. Work hard at those things in the season that you have them. But then when the next thing comes around, it's time to do that. And I've seen you like, even with politics, it's not your job, but you're very passionate about it. And so you do a very good job saying, okay, I did my work is done. Now I'm going to like look into politics. I'm going to help in my state. I'm going to be a part of this. I'm going to organize this event. I'm going to speak at this event. Like you're very good at almost like compartmentalizing, but still giving 100% to each.
It's the Enneagram 8.
Also, it's the Enneagram, hardcore Enneagram 8. Yes, I'm so glad you said that, and I didn't even have to ask. So thank you for just acknowledging that. No, I love that about you.
Proud 8.
Yeah. Do you feel like you have a lot going on right now? Like, do you feel like your plate is full? And also, on top of that, I don't even know how I can word this because it's like, I love having a full plate. So it's like, I want my plate to be full. So do you feel like your plate is full and do you thrive with everything all the time, or are you secretly an introvert that needs a second?
So I would say I fill up by being around people. So I'm probably an extrovert when it comes down to it. I think everybody needs a break at some point, but my recluse, like I need a day. After a day, where's the next project? So it doesn't take me long to be ready to be in the zone again. So kind of getting personal a little bit there. I've just had a lot going on lately. I feel like there was a lot of personal things happening. There were a lot of work things happening. There was a lot of political things happening. And I did feel like things kind of came to a head about a month ago. And in that, I had to look at everything and say, okay, I even talked to my boss and talked to some friends and said, all right, what do I need to shuffle? Everything was fine, but now it's not. And so I have the hard way learned, but over the years in grad school in particular, I had just autoimmune issues and really learned through that experience that I can do a lot, but I am finite. And the 8 in me doesn't love that.
Yeah.
Don't like being a limited person, but I am.
Unlimited.
If we only were.
Together we're unlimited.
It's a lie, though. I'm preaching to myself here, but when we believe that I can do it all, number one, I turn away from seeing God as my provider. But number two, I burn out.
Yeah.
I can't do it all.
Can't pour from an empty cup.
Yeah. And I have to take a break and I have to fill back up. And so I have to be able to recognize that. So I have recently, so yes, my plate is full right now, but in a good spot.
Yeah.
But that is because recently I was like, wait up, brakes. I need to reshuffle. And that's a constant. Every so many months or a year, I have to look at what's going on. What are my priorities? Am I spending enough time with people I want to spend time with? Am I doing enough about the issues I care about? Where am I saying yes? And I need to be saying no because I care about other yeses more. So that's a constant thing. But I feel like I learned that. And so I now have a skill of doing it. I have to remember to practice it, but I know how to do that and I try to do it regularly.
Yes, I love that perspective because you can have a full plate, but it not be so overwhelming because, like I said, you cannot pour from an empty cup. And I think that is very human. It's something that we all need to be doing is stepping back. I know for me, towards the end of 2023, I found myself in a position where I almost wasn't excited about the work in front of me. And I know myself. So I know when I get to that point where I'm not excited to sit behind a microphone or I'm not excited to take a picture. It's not that I no longer like podcasting. It's not that I no longer like photography. I'm just tired and I need a break and I need to sit down and I need to reevaluate what am I doing? What is going well? What's not going well? What can I, it's not time to quit the thing necessarily. Maybe it's time to quit the thing. That's a conversation you should have. But like for me, it's not time to quit. I'm just tired. And so you've got to know yourself well enough to know when do I need a break and when do we need to reevaluate the goals and the plan moving forward.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Okay, let's transition and talk a little bit politics because this is something that, take a sip of your coffee. This is something that I was excited to chat with you about because you are my main political friend that when something comes up on social media,
which there always is something.
There's always something. And we're going to talk about whether or not we should be following news sources on social media. But when something pops up, Meagan, you are the person that I send a text to and I'm like, hey, so what's the deal with this? And then you are very kind to reach back out and be like, yes, actually, this is a more helpful article. Or no, that's not right at all. Do not repost that. Or like, Morgan, delete that off of your story. And I'm like, okay. So share with us as little or as much as you want just about your political involvement. And then I just have some questions for you. Maybe someone's listening and they're like me, who is not very much in the political scene, but someone who wants to be educated and wants to be aware. I just have questions of like, where should we be going? What should we be listening to? Is there something we shouldn't be listening to? It doesn't depend where you fall on the spectrum.
Yeah.
We all want to be educated.
Yeah.
And I think should be aware of what's happening if we are living in this country that we are so grateful and blessed to live in. Let's be aware of what's happening so that we can help make it the best it can be.
Yes. So my beginnings with politics really starts with, and we were talking this morning about stories that sort of shape us. This is one for me. I had a friend who actually running for Congress this year. Woo-hoo! So gotta give a shout out, Adam Morgan for Congress, a friend of mine from Greenville, South Carolina. But years ago, we were at a group game night and Adam and his wife, Meagan, were there. And we were all kind of just talking about politics and young people being involved. And I remember expressing frustration to them about I didn't like what was going on and I didn't know how to get involved and there was nothing for young adults because this was, quite a while ago. And so I just graduated from college or grad school and I was like, where do I go? What do I do? And I remember Adam looked at me and said, well, you should probably just start it. Like you should just make the thing because I don't think it exists in this area. And a group for young adults to connect over conservative politics, because that's where I landed. And I just remember taking that and thinking, okay, I guess I'll do it. And right after that conversation, I reached out to some friends I knew who were also at that game night, and we all kind of like politics, talk politics. That's why we all hung out. And so I got friends together and just decided we're going to do this. And I created a board. We created bylaws, created an organization, filed with the Secretary of State. It's called Young Greenville, another shout out. But I founded this club and it is the most active young conservatives organization in South Carolina. So it's in a county organization and it's in Greenville County. And we're, taking names.
Did you know how to do this or were you Googling how to start a club? Like, how does that process work? You just got people together and were like, hey, let's figure this out?
So I think some of it's tied to the theater degree. I had learned how to
assemble.
Assemble, like Avengers.
Yeah.
I really learned how to make a plan.
Okay.
Have a vision and say, okay, how do we get from A to Z?
Okay.
And sit down. I was used to leading meetings at that point. I was used to creating a budget. I was used to creating all those kinds of things. And so I did a little Googling. I did reach out to someone from another county and got some advice on how to do it. But mostly it was just, all right, well, this is how you create a business entity. This is how you draft bylaws. And I just sort of went for it. And then once we had established it, once we had a name and a social presence and we were an established organization, we just held an event. And I do a lot of event stuff. I had a job in corporate events for 3 years. So I'm not sure where the event thing came from originally.
Probably that.
Well, I mean, pre that though, I think
Okay.
from my mom, like she just hosts a lot of parties.
She does do a lot.
Yeah. So
she goes all out.
Yeah. So I kind of learned how to estimate guest counts and order food and set up and make
Life
things look nice.
experiences.
Yeah. So that skill of event planning is probably one of the primary reasons that club originally grew so fast, because as a board, we were small, but we would put on great events.
Okay.
And that's now a signature of the club is we are a connection point for young people.
What are these events? Who's coming to them? Who's invited? What happens?
Yeah. So mostly just like social networking.
Okay.
It's a lot of connecting elected officials with young conservatives. So for instance, our signature event is Party Like It's 1776. Did that our first, it was actually our kickoff event. And we did it at a rooftop pool. It was amazing, downtown Greenville.
Amazing.
We had almost 100 people come to our kickoff event. It was bougie and fun and really simple. I think all we had was like charcuterie. It was like this really easy, so fun, little South Carolina flags, just really cute. Great for the gram, had tons of photos, and we reached out. I mean, I had background in fundraising as well. So I kind of learned how to make calls and ask people for money. So I remember reaching out to these groups and saying, hey, we are the only group in Greenville County that is hosting things for young conservatives. Will you be willing to support us? I mean, it's not a tax exempt thing, it's political, but asking people to contribute.
Yeah.
And people gave little bits. And so we were able to throw this event.
So often people don't give because they just don't know.
Right.
And you know how to make that call.
Right.
That's so good, honestly, just for me to like personally hear, like to hear on a personal level, because there's things that's like, I want to grow and build. I've never really thought about making a phone call, but like,
oh, you have to call them. You can't send an email. You have to call. You can't because
I'm
when
learning
you have
so much.
When you have them on the phone,
This is why we're friends.
There's something about it's personal because you're talking. It's also immediate. And if you're on the phone, people love to say, you don't want to give people the option to say no, right? But people want to say yes, but you have to give them the right ask. Mm-hmm. So, and then that's something I'm not great at, but I've really tried to learn how to ask. And and it's one I'm still building, but that really is how we got started. So then we would do events, and actually this next year, plug, hopefully they're coming. And this is I made connections with the British consulate here in the US in the southern office. I think it's like a regional based thing, but we've connected and fingers crossed. I mean, they're invited and they want to come. So they're penciled in.
That's incredible.
To come to this next year's summer party like 1776. So they'll have some members come. So, which is so fun, right? Because British consulate coming to 1776. I mean,
that's
it's
insane.
Like old history.
Yeah. I love that. That's awesome. So besides the event, is there any other purpose of the group? Are you getting together like weekly, monthly? Is it a place for people to just like ask questions and, like you said, like social network?
So the biggest thing I learned with getting involved politically, no matter what amount of time you have, you don't have enough to do it all the time.
Right.
Like no average person
and no one wants to do everything all the time. We don't have time to do everything all the time.
Even if you love it. I mean, I love this stuff and I get burnt out after, one meeting. So what we've really found that works for us at least, and for a young adult to middle-aged adult demographic, because we're all busy with work and family, is have an event. We're a very event-based.
Okay.
But not more than every couple months.
Okay.
Because that is, every quarter seems to work well.
Yep.
To get together. It's a little more seasonal. A few times a year. Talk about the big ticket things. Connect with your local officials. Be able to ask them questions. It's very personal. You have lots of social time.
Right.
Maybe have a speaker to educate on a topic, educational, informational.
And that pulls people in. You're like, hey, we're actually giving out great content that you're going to want to hear. But then other than that, go follow each other on socials. And then that's how you keep up in the day to day. And then you get to look forward to seeing each other at the next event.
Exactly. And if you really want to be more involved, you can be on the board. So that's how this organization has grown. We have around 20 people, 18 or 20 on the board. And so the people who like want to live it a lot more apply to be on the board or on even a committee. We have committees that are underneath the board and help plan the different events, whether it's more community service oriented. That's 1/3 of the group. We do actually just straight community service instead of political. And the other 2/3 are politics. So legislative and like more policy based.
Okay.
Yeah. So
that's so cool that you put a focus on community events. So it's not all let's get in a circle circle and talk conservative politics. It's like, no, let's actually do good and show people we care and we love them.
Right. I always joke like the GOP cares. And I think a lot of Republicans can sometimes get a bad name for not being the party of social issues. And that's, I mean, personal opinion here. It's not true. And so I really personally in my community wanted to help people realize it's not true. Yeah. Like we care. We do an event every year to encourage our elderly community. We do an event every year to fundraise toys or gifts for either veterans or children's organizations. We really try to find ways to partner with people that are just serving other people in need. Yeah. And we've actually done like pickup days, cleanup days. So we care about the environment. Putting conservative back in conservation. So all the things.
Wow, that's a t-shirt. Okay, so this leads perfectly into my next question. For people who are listening and thinking, wow, that's awesome. Again, no matter where you land on the spectrum of politics, you're thinking, that's awesome. I would love to either be involved or know what my state is doing. I'm here in Charlotte, so maybe people are listening from the Charlotte area, but people could be listening from anywhere. Well, how do I learn if Charlotte is doing that? Because I don't even know if Charlotte's doing that.
Yeah, or, and they are.
Oh, great.
Yeah, there's some groups that do that. So, and all over. So the first thing I would do if it was me, if I was moving to a town, what would I do? I usually tell people, depending on what party you're more affiliated with, I know that both Democratic and Republican have strong arms of this. Apologies if you're an independent. I don't know a whole lot about independent party, non-party politic organizations. So, but for probably most everybody else, Democrats and Republicans, there are these pretty well-established groups in most areas of the country, at least statewide. What I would do is Google your state. So let's say you're in Illinois and you want to look up the Illinois Democratic Party. Start there, Illinois Republican Party. They'll have a website and you can look to see what chapters or local versions of that are affiliated with them. Where are they based? Often they'll post meetings or they'll have links to their social media. So I would go from there and be like, okay, I live in Chicago. So I'm going to look at their Chicago Facebook page and, they just posted, they have a Christmas event and it's on this date at this location. And I would go to an event, shake as many hands as you can, meet as many people as you can, make a few friends, and then get their information and ask them to keep you informed. Hey, invite me to the next thing. I want to get involved. I want to know more and build relationships. Because, and like we have with each other, like that is really where you're able to get good information. You're able to ask good questions and know what's going on boots on the ground. It's not a commitment. You can go to one event. You can go to 12 events, however many. You don't have to, sign on anything to do that. You can just show up and never show up again.
I mean, this is great for the person who's like, all I do is sit at home. I really should get out more. Go to one of these events.
People.
Great way to meet people.
And you're going to know that learn something. You have some values at least in common. It's a big proponent that we have with ours is we say, hey, want to meet other conservatives? Come out, make friends. And we have so many people that have made friends through this network of just coming to an event, making a connection. So I've made friends through it.
Okay. So a simple Google search of your state, your party.
Yeah,
it's going to start there.
Go to their socials, see what events they're doing, and show up at one and make the personal connection.
It's going to take us being proactive.
Yeah.
So fuel up, get some protein and carbs in you before you go because you're going to shake a lot of hands and you're going to get in the car and you're going to be exhausted.
Use the sanitizer.
So also wash your hands, sing happy birthday. Y'all know the drill. I feel like that's really helpful. And you talked about connecting with social media. So now I want to pivot to social media. Because I am the type of person who maybe like a lot of millennials and Gen Zers don't turn on the news on my TV. I just don't. The things I watch on my TV are streaming shows, or I do love to watch the Today Show in the morning. Shout out to Hoda and Jenna. Love them to death.
I don't watch the news either, by the way.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So for someone like me who doesn't have the news on the TV all day long, my go-to then becomes Instagram because that's where I am.
Yeah.
So do I simply go follow news sources on Instagram? Yes or no? If I do, which ones do I follow? Like, tell us how we should be gaining our news information, if we should be gaining our news information. Like, what is your take? Well, what's your take on how we ought to be intaking? Because we all know that the world is crazy and there's so much falseness being spread and we don't know what's true. And it's just crazy. So how do we throw out the bathwater without throwing the baby out too, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. So really big question because there's not a simple answer. My personal opinion is that in the age of social media, we have become soundbite consumers. And it's wonderful for like what we're doing here, to introduce someone to a topic in a short moment and gain their interest to listen to the whole thing. The problem is, for whatever reason, when it comes to the news, we never engage with the full story, or we really rarely do. We hear the soundbite and formulate our opinion on the issue based on that alone. And that is where the problem lies across the board in US politics. I would probably international politics as well, but I'll mostly just speak to national politics. We do that all the time, both sides of the aisle. We see a story, we see one image with a caption, and I was talking to you earlier today, Morgan, about this, that I saw so many news sources after some recent giant international events. And I remember seeing the photo and thinking, with the caption for the headline, and thinking, I've either seen that photo before, or that doesn't look like the area they're talking about. And you look it up and it's from 2008. It's from 2012. It's not actually and it's not like that's not illegal. Like, they're using an image to catch your attention, but because of the association with the headline, you think that's what it's talking about. Happens all the time. That's a simple example of how the media and I'm not meaning the media as in like, CNN and Fox News only. I'm meaning even social influencers. Yeah. We do this.
I mean, there have been actual studies that have come out that says like 20 years ago, humans had an attention span of about 7 minutes, and people would hear that and be like, 7 minutes, that's it. That's not a long time at all. Like kids at school, we need to keep their attention, so we at least get them for 7 minutes. Recent studies have come out, it's down to 15 seconds.
And it's because, think about a story.
A TikTok,
reel. It's a TikTok, a reel, a story, 15 seconds. And we live in that culture. And this is the reality. And this really probably started, a little history lesson. This really kind of started with Kennedy when he was running for president, because his debating ability on television, it was like the first nationally broadcasted debates on television. And it really brought people to a new era of interacting with their potential political leaders. Because instead of it being them reading a speech in a newspaper, which is what they used to do, like Abraham Lincoln's speeches would be the full thing printed. Mm-hmm. Instead of them reading their full ideas from start to finish, they were able to see the person.
Right.
Their physicality. He was good looking. He was well spoken. He was interesting. And again, I apologize if I'm incorrect that he was the first on TV, but I think he's the first televised presidential debates. Either way, it's the first that changed the shift, where we went from, it wasn't that he wasn't suited to be president. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that his appeal to the voter wasn't on policy and capability alone. Now we're down to, if you can in 15 seconds get on a debate stage and say an inciting jab, catch attention on a reel, you can go viral and have 1 million hits in a night. And all of a sudden everyone's talking about that, and you've controlled the news headlines. You could have said absolutely terrible things the rest of the time.
That's the problem is, can we actually sum up in 15 seconds an entire, complete, and thorough thought?
And I would say no. I don't think you can. And that is where the difficulty lies, because I think we have such limited, and it's understandable, desire and capacity to live in the media, news, issues of the world. It's heavy, it's overwhelming, the politics sphere. But if we only want to engage in a short amount of time, we're actually hurting ourselves maybe more than we're helping ourselves, because we are limiting our scope of information. We're believing something that we don't have a full picture on, and that's it. We don't go further. If we're not willing to dive deeper, and we're spread so thin across all of these issues, well, one, we're probably shallow in our beliefs and very uninformed, but we're also just so prone to error. I mean, making mistakes. We have such, and I don't know why, I'm just like really, I know why, this is just what I do, but I'm like ranting about this, but we have such a gift and responsibility as Americans. You know, if I lived in a different society, a different nation, I believe that the scripture works in every nation, every culture, right? It's not defined by, Christianity is not Western society's religion. Christianity is available to all and works in any culture. Bible, it transcends culture. But if I lived in a different culture, I believe scripture gives me a responsibility to submit to my government, to submit to my authority. If I lived in a different culture, submitting to my government would look really different than in the US submitting to my government. And that's okay. It does look different. But in the US, in many ways, I am the government. So I'm not the president. People. But So what does it mean? And I know I'm kind of preaching here a little bit, but what is it? An interesting tie as a believer, at least I believe this. This is where a lot of my desire and passion in politics comes from, is where do we as a believer get our reason for being involved in community issues? If you're a person of faith and believe in the Lord and you believe you should submit to government, what is the responsibility to give unto Caesar what is Caesar's? Well, as a Christian in America, if you're a U.S. citizen, you have a responsibility to vote. I believe that. You have a responsibility to your community because we are community interdependent. You have a responsibility to speak out on a lot of issues because of the way our government is structured. Doesn't mean you have to do everything. We're not called to be all things to all people, but we are called to serve. And in America, for me, that looks different than it maybe would look in a different country. Connected to the soundbite and like the thinking on media and news, I think that plays a role because it's really easy to hear something and repeat it and just be careless and flippant and get upset and share ideas.
Or just to see it and to immediately think that it's true.
Yeah.
Like the level of gullibleness, I feel like is probably skyrocketing.
Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned earlier before we pressed record, it's like we maybe in the past used to be a deeper people. It's like, we consumed way less information, but the information we were given, we read it. We sat with it, we read it. So we knew a lot about certain things. Right. And now we're so surface level. We know a lot of random facts about a lot of things, but we're not deep in anything.
Right.
Obviously, I'm generalizing. That's not true for everything, but like that is the society.
Right. And how does that connect to our values? And that's where I'm making that connection there of
that's good.
Is that okay? Are we okay with that? I maybe just challenge the listener a little bit to think about, not that you need to go and now volunteer for every campaign. That's not what I'm meaning, but to think seriously about what information do you consume? And then why does that matter? And how does your value system play into your involvement in your community? Because at least for me, because I do believe I have a responsibility biblically to serve my government, and my government power in many ways is the people, what am I doing about it? And am I careless and flippant, or am I taking it seriously and thinking about who's on my ballot and looking up good sources and finding out, okay, before I go to the ballot box, for my primary, all the primaries, by the way, your primaries, presidential primaries in particular, it's all going to be coming up there's some caucuses in January and February and March, I think. But then the primaries are all happening, I think, from February through June. So your state, it might be different. So look up your primaries.
She's going into teacher mode.
Go vote. But then think about, who's on your ballot? Do you know? I mean, I've been guilty of this. I've walked in and been like, oh no, I forgot to look up who the judges were voting on this time. Or, the school board. But I mean, think about
Welcome to my home. This is a safe space where I also don't know who the judges are, but we should know.
We should know.
That's good.
And these are the people that we are electing them and they answer to us. I mean, if I was hiring someone. You can't
get mad about how things are if we're
doing
not
nothing. And
doing anything.
Yeah. So, I mean, at least I feel that
way.
What's
the quote about when a good man does nothing? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, lots of people have been attributed to that, but I know Martin Luther King Jr.
Was that his?
He definitely
Is that out of context?
It.
Maybe it's
No.
Context.
I'm saying he definitely said it. I don't know if he originated with him.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure. But I know that he is one of the ones who has re-said that comment.
Yeah, I'm going to look it up.
Okay.
Because now we all have to, someone's screaming it out.
Lots of people have said it. Somebody is probably shouting they're like, how can this girl say she knows things about anything? But I will say that's the first thing you have to be willing to admit is you're never going to know everything about everything.
I got it. The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing.
Yes.
And Edmund Burke maybe was the original
first
quote by Edmund Burke.
Well, that sounds about right.
So I think that right now, as people are listening, we're going into March soon. Obviously, it's election year. I would love to know, are there specific places that you would recommend we stay away from, specific places that we gravitate towards as we learn more to be informed of everyone involved in this process, both locally and on a national level? Where are there places that you would recommend we go to be informed?
So another tricky piece, because unfortunately, with the concept of being subjective people, we can't look at a piece of information and it be totally, completely separate from someone's perspective.
Sure. Everything is going to have a bias.
Have a bias. Yes. So what I tend to do, this is what I would suggest, is whenever you're going to deep dive on a topic, whether it be a candidate or an issue, something you want to know more about, catch both ends of the spectrum. It's pretty easy to do because usually sources are pretty obvious about their bias. So if you aren't aware, if you want to get like a really pretty left-leaning hot take on the spectrum of issues, I would read like the Washington Post. It's one of the ones I go to read. I'll read Politico, which that's not, I don't know exactly in the same camp as Washington Post, but they're all kind of more left oriented. And then obviously if you read something like Fox News or Daily Wire, you'd be leaning more right. More center left is like the Atlantic, but you're going to get with those sources. So those some places you can go to online to read about a topic. Let's say you wanted to know about ABC topic. I'm going to go read an article in one, and then I'm going to go read in another. I'm going to get a couple perspectives about the same issue to see how they're talking about it. Because I know they have a bias. I want to experience their bias in the information, but I want to hear all the sides. It's going to help me to have a much more balanced perspective on the topic and be more informed. So that's at least what I found to be helpful when I'm trying to find, if I don't know someone who knows something about the issue, although that's usually my first go-to. If I know someone who knows something about it, have the relationship, make a call and say, hey, or a text like we've done. I do this with friends as well. And I'll say, hey, are you familiar with this issue? Or you might know so-and-so if it's local. Can you explain this to me? But if it's not, if it's like national news, multiple sources. But then also over time, if you have the ability to read about something, not just in the day that it goes online, but follow back up on that story. Keep up with the story in the same capacity.
Because so much of what I see is like, breaking news, this happened, so-and-so did this, and it's like the hot button thing. And I'm like, I told you this earlier today, like I'll race to go put it on my story and make some sassy comment. And it's like, okay, but if I do that, I end up looking like the loser because number one, I didn't even read the article. Who knows if I even read the full caption? Maybe I just read what was on the picture that was posted. Like we've got to take more time to look into what it is we're seeing. The media is not out here to teach us as much as they are out here to make money. So they will do what they want to entertain us to make money.
The media is not, and I mean this broadly, like I mean it national media and social media.
Not this podcast, though. We genuinely just want the
truth.
best for all people. And everything we say is 100% accurate 100% of the time. Don't fact check me on that because I'm right.
But I mean, I'm in marketing. Like you're trying to sell something.
Right.
And hopefully
they're
in an
doing
honest
their job.
And truthful way.
Yes.
Sometimes not, but they're sometimes not me. Honest, truthful all the time. At least if I'm caught, I would try to, obviously apologize and correct. Always funny when a news story is blatantly inerrant and then they get corrected and then they like make a tiny little subscript note about their blatant error. It's so funny. I mean, terrible. But I would recognize that whatever you're seeing, they are wanting viewership because that equals dollars. And so it's an enticing headline on purpose. It's trying to incite a reaction, positive and negative. It helps them either way. So think about that when you're engaging with the topic. I actually just recently, so this won't be available, when you all hear this, but I just recently engaged on a topic that I had seen and I did read the article, thought about it, had personal experience as to why I had an opinion on it. I put out my opinion. I don't do this all the time.
I know exactly what you're talking
about.
But
if I care about the issue, I got a ton of engagement on it, mostly positive. Saying or positive in the sense of affirming of what I said. And then I had a friend who engaged with me on it and disagreed with my take, but it was because, which is totally okay. And I love that friendship because she and I do this frequently over things, or not frequently, but every once in a while. We'll engage. And if we have a difference of opinion, she will tell me honestly what she thinks and we'll have a lively conversation about here's why I think that, here's why I think, and we'll both share that. And we have different backgrounds, different experiences in some ways that have shaped some of that. We live in different communities in different parts of the country. And all of that colors why we interpret information differently as well. So also recognize that you can intake information and it seem one way to you and it means something totally different to someone else because we all have different lived experiences. So that helps me to have patience for people when if I'm like, oh, why do they think that? It's like, well, they may really have a reason for why they think that.
Yeah.
But I do view, not the media as the enemy, but I don't view it as my friend.
Well, and at the end of the day, we're not responsible for the actions of other people. We're responsible for what we do with it.
Yeah.
So what are we doing to be the wisest versions of ourselves that we can be with the information we've been given?
Yeah.
It's on them to do what they're going to do.
Yeah.
It's our job to then take that, learn from it, learn about it, proceed with life.
Yeah.
That's so good. Meagan, is there anything else like on this topic that you feel like you need to say or we need to talk about? I feel like we've covered so much.
Yeah. I just would reiterate the encouragement to be involved and to care and to realize that you can't change it all, and don't let that be a frustration or a discouragement to you. When this episode airs, there will have already been some caucuses, some primaries probably will have happened in a few states at least. And don't let yourself be so overwhelmed by negative that you disengage. It's really easy to do. And I would encourage anybody to care more about, to not let the negative stop you from doing what's right. It's so easy to just let negative news keep us down and say, why does it matter? I have gone door knocking, and I think of this elderly lady that I ran into while knocking doors. It's about a county council vote, and I was encouraging her to get out to vote. And I remember she was raking leaves in her front yard, and she just looked at me and she said something along the lines of, I don't vote anymore. It's useless. My vote does not matter. And I am telling you, I have watched county council seats, which have quite a bit of influence, raising taxes, funding or not funding law enforcement, education, all kinds of things. County council votes win by 2 and 3 votes. That woman says it doesn't matter, but I know for a fact it does. And the guy I'd voted for didn't get it. And so it really matters. We so easily think, well, but in the view of millions for president, it doesn't matter. But the president's only one voice on that ticket. I mean, the person in your county council and on your school board is going to influence your life. Your life is going to be so dramatically impacted by the local offices. So know who's on the ballot.
So good.
Go vote.
I love that. I love that. Well, one final question, totally out of left field, but consistent with the podcast. This has been so good, by the way. Thank you for
thank you. Thanks
having
for
this like hard conversation, but I feel like necessary conversation. It's just, it's been very good.
So much fun.
Oh, good. Glad you're having fun.
Oh yeah. I can talk about this all day.
Oh man. I mean, we've talked cat parenting, finances, politics. So just a normal day for Morgan. Just kidding. We're going to go eat a bowl of ice cream after this and watch a show. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's been so good. You're just a wealth of knowledge. And I love that you are so intentional about the truth. And I mean that biblically, in education, in politics. Like, you are just somebody who intentionally chases out authenticity and truth.
Thank you. That's so kind.
I mean, I love that about you. And I admire to be more like that. So it means your friendship means so much to me. Okay, final question. I'm not going to get teary. Final question.
I'll keep it light.
We'll keep it light. Keep it light. Because the show is called Love That For You. And I love everything about you for you.
Oh my gosh.
Now I want to know what you're loving right now in life. What is something that you just love and need to tell the world about?
All right. So I talk about this all the time. My boyfriend, if he listens to this, will laugh because I talk to him about this. And it is not, I mean, he is so sweet to listen to me talk about my nails. My nails.
What a lead up. My nails.
So they're actually, I realized I had chipped, I think in the shower, which is sad.
No.
It's fine. Okay. So I do them myself.
Okay.
And really got into that. I mean, like hardcore hour and a half minimum.
But not like not doing anything. Like you will sit down and do them yourself.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Like I have a whole ritual. Like I have tools I use and clean them. I have tons of new polish. I'm OPI polish all the way. Base coat, 3 coats of polish, top coat, have a spray dry.
You're back in your early 2000s era of nails.
100%. Okay, my nails are so tough. My nails are as strong as they were with gel, as natural. I have not broken a nail in a year, almost a year.
Knock on all the wood. Yep.
Knock on wood. But I love it because I change the color. And they say you shouldn't use acetone on your nails. And somebody's going to probably find a source that's different than this. But what I've seen is every 7 days, you should at least have 7 days in between. taking and using acetone. So I try to use a lower, like not a lot of acetone and do a nail polish remover that, so it takes a little longer to come off, but nail polish off. And then I have a oil that I put on in between, like for a night or two to let my nail heal a little bit. I have cuticle oil that I put on after I do my nails and they've totally dried. Yeah, it's a whole phase. I love it.
But I bet that's like, in a way, therapeutic for you to just
relaxing.
sit down, be by yourself. Are you like listening to a podcast while you do this?
No.
It's just silence.
I normally just sit and spend an hour and a half to 2 hours. Well, because it's like an hour and a half to do the nails. Because I'm full on. I'm soaking them, cleaning, like with little scissor, like tweezer things, whatever they're called. Yeah, manicure set. And I'm cleaning my nails meticulously. So that is therapeutic because it's like I'm very task oriented, if you can't tell. And this is a simple task that I can do, and it just slows everything. You can't, and when you're doing your nails, you cannot do anything because I don't do gel. So they have to fully dry. So you can do nothing. I can maybe type a little, but that's about it. So yeah, I love to do my nails.
That's so fun. And you use like OPI. Do you have a favorite color?
Yeah. No. So my parents got me for Christmas an advent calendar. And so I got a zillion new colors. So
like a nail
every day, a nail color. Yeah.
Calendar.
Every day a nail color. So I got a ton of new colors.
Okay.
So I'm now just
and they're all OPI.
They're all OPI. Yeah.
The best.
Yeah. It's great.
Before I switched to gel and dip and all the things now, and even like the stickers and stuff, I'm sold on everything. I just go through seasons of different things. Yeah. But before that, like OPI, like that was the one. So.
Yeah. It lasts. If I do my nails, I know I just said I chipped this one, but honestly, this polish that I'm using now I think I should have done it as a top coat over a solid color. This is the kind of conversation I have with my boyfriend. I love it. And he's like,
acting so interested.
But normal solid color will last me a full 7 days without chip. So, I mean, that's great for me because I'm tired of it after a week.
Yeah.
I want
something new.
I want something new.
And it allows you to then sit and do it again. And
it's
just
a weekly ritual.
Time.
Yeah.
That's really neat.
I love it.
That's really neat. Well, Meagan, I love you. Thanks for coming on this podcast.
So fun. Thanks for having me.
For sure, you need to come back sometime. Like you're not a one-timer. So maybe we'll have you. I'm telling this to you, to your face right now. Maybe even like as the election gets closer, like right after it, we can have you come on and do like a debrief of like what's happening. Tell us what we need to know.
And that would be so fun.
How to be involved. So
maybe if you get hate mail though about me, it's okay. You don't have to have me back. I don't mind. I am not super offended easily.
Okay, great. So. Is there a place, let me ask you this, is there a place where people can follow you or follow even the Young Greenvilles, Republicans?
Yes. Okay, so the Everything Social Young Greenville. So even if you're not anywhere near South Carolina, but you're curious about what we're doing, maybe you want to do something similar in your own state. So it's Young Greenville on Instagram. It's Young Greenville on Facebook. We have a website, younggreenville.com. And then me personally, I'm Meagan Ingersoll. So I'm Meagan Ingersoll on social media, everywhere. If you want my local, every once in a while, hot takes, I'm on X as Meagan Ingersoll. And
I have not been on that in a hot second.
Well, I don't get on often. I just get on to, bark about issues.
What's happening.
No.
You're one of those.
I go on to say something.
Okay.
And I don't say a lot.
Are you
all
on
the time.
Threads?
No.
Yeah.
No, that's a commitment thing to me. I need to research this more.
They just took it away.
Oh, really?
Are you talking about if you delete it, it deletes your Instagram?
Yeah, I was not. I was like, no.
So I could be wrong. I feel like I
haven't read
in
enough
the
about
past few months they were going to change that so that you could now delete it without it deleting your Instagram account.
See, that's why I didn't. So Instagram, if you haven't changed it, just know you're missing out on quality content because I don't want that commitment.
Yeah, heard it here first, folks. Yeah. That's great. Well,
but if you follow me, I would love to engage with you.
And slide into her DMs if you have questions. And
happy to answer as many as I can.
Perfect. Just not while her nails are drying.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to this episode, friends. If you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share the love with your friends and family. Remember, life is all about the stories we create and share. So let's keep spreading inspiration and positivity. See you next week.